In a village ruled by pride and fear, a poor widow's son is accused of stealing the chief's golden bracelet. But when everyone kneels to lies, one boy dares to stand, even if it costs him everything. Watch The Widow's Son Who Refused to Kneel, a powerful African story of truth, courage, and redemption. Don't just watch, feel it.
Tales of Africa by Mr. Prince.
The sound of the market faded as Kofi stood still in the middle of the crowd. His heart beat fast, but his face stayed calm. The chief's son Mensa raised a golden bracelet and shouted, "This thief stole my father's treasure." The crowd gasped, forming a circle around him. Dust rose under Kofi's bare feet as whispers filled the air. His mother, Amma, pushed through the people, her wrapper untied from running. "My son would never steal," she cried, but no one listened. The guards grabbed Kofi by his arms and dragged him toward the palace. Every step echoed with shame he did not deserve. Mensa smirked proudly, pretending to wipe sweat from his brow. "You can lie, but you cannot hide," he said. Kofi turned his head sharply, his voice low but firm. "I did not touch that bracelet." The market grew silent again. Even the chief's elders looked uneasy. "Let the boy speak," one whispered, but the chief's glare silenced him. Amma's tears fell like rain, but Kofi did not cry. He only stared at the chief's son, his eyes full of truth. In that moment, the village saw something strange. A poor widow's son refusing to bow before a lie. That day, his silence became his first act of courage. The sun rose high above the palace as Kofi stood before the chief's stool. His wrists were tied, his clothes dusty, yet his eyes held a quiet fire. Villagers gathered again, whispering among themselves. The chief's golden crown sparkled as he looked down on the widow's son. "Kofi," the chief said, his voice deep and slow, "if you kneel and beg for mercy, I will forgive you. Refuse, and you will carry shame forever." The guards tightened their hold on his arms, waiting for his answer. Kofi lifted his head. "I will not kneel for a lie," he said. "My mother raised me to fear no truth." A gasp moved through the crowd like wind through dry leaves. No one had ever refused the chief before. The drummers stopped playing. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Mensa's proud smile disappeared, replaced by shock and anger. Amma ran forward, falling on her knees. "Kofi, please. Just kneel. Let this end." Her voice cracked like breaking glass. Kofi looked at her with tears in his eyes but did not bend. "Mama, I cannot kneel to a lie," he whispered. The chief's face darkened. "Then you choose your own punishment," he said coldly. The guards dragged Kofi away as the crowd watched in fearful silence. The evening sky turned red as Kofi was dragged to the big tree in the village square. His wrists were tied behind his back, and his feet ached from the rough ground. The people gathered again, their faces full of fear and curiosity. No one dared to speak against the chief's command. Mensa stood proudly beside his father, the chief, holding the golden bracelet in his hand. "Let this thief learn his lesson," the chief said. The guards poured cold water on Kofi, and the villagers watched in silence. Some turned away, ashamed of what they were seeing. Amma tried to reach her son, but two women held her back. "Please let me talk to him," she cried. "He is only a boy." But her voice was drowned by the chief's shout. "Take her away before she curses this land." Kofi's eyes met his mother's across the crowd. "Do not cry, Mama," he said softly. "Truth does not die." The guard struck him with a cane, but he did not scream. His silence cut deeper than any sound. When night came, thunder rolled over the village. The wind howled through the trees, as if the heavens were angry. That night, even the chief could not sleep. Days passed, and Kofi remained tied in the chief's storehouse. His body was weak, but his spirit stayed strong. The villagers whispered about him in secret, wondering if he was truly guilty. Alma moved from house to house, begging someone to speak for her son, but everyone feared the chief's anger. One moonless night, a quiet knock came at Alma's door. She opened it to see Efua, a young girl who worked in the chief's kitchen. Her face was pale with fear. "Mama Alma," she whispered, "I saw who took the bracelet." Alma's heart skipped. "Who?" Efua's hands trembled. It was Mensa. He took it to show his friends near the river. When he came back, he pretended it was stolen. Alma covered her mouth in shock. "We must tell the chief," she said. Efua shook her head quickly. "He will never believe us. He trusts only Mensa." The two sat in silence for a moment, the sound of crickets filling the air. Alma's eyes filled with tears. "Then we will find proof ourselves," she said. "The truth must speak." Efua nodded bravely. That night, under the dark Ghanaian sky, two women, one poor and one afraid, made a promise that would soon shake the entire village. The days grew longer, and Alma's strength began to fade. She walked slowly through the village, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights. People turned away when they saw her coming. No one wanted to be seen speaking to the widow whose son had defied the chief. Still, she prayed every night for the truth to find its way out. Inside the chief's storehouse, Kofi lay on the floor, his hands tied, his lips dry. He listened to the sounds of the market outside, laughter, drums, life moving on without him. Sometimes he thought of giving up, but then he remembered his mother's voice telling him to be strong. Efua visited Alma secretly, bringing food and whispering hope. "We will find proof soon," she promised. But Alma's body was weak, her heart heavy with sorrow. "Child," she said softly, "truth is light, but it walks slowly." One morning, Kofi waited for his mother's voice outside the storehouse, but she did not come. A god told him, "The widow is sick." His heart sank like a stone. He turned his face to the wall and wept quietly. That night, lightning flashed across the sky. Kofi closed his eyes and made a promise that he would live long enough to clear his mother's name. A week later, the morning sun rose quietly over the village. Efua swept the chief's compound, her hands shaking. She had prayed all night for courage. While cleaning Mensa's room, her broom hit something hard under his bed. She bent down and froze. It was the golden bracelet, shining like guilt itself. Her heart raced. She hid it under her wrapper and slipped out of the house. At the village shrine, the elders were meeting. Efua burst in, breathless and afraid. "I found the bracelet," she cried, holding it high. The elders gasped, and people began to gather. Mensa's face turned pale when he saw it. "That's not mine," he shouted, but his voice trembled. The eldest man pointed at him. "Tell the truth, boy." Mensa's eyes filled with tears. "Father told me to say Kofi stole it," he whispered. "He said it would teach him respect." The crowd broke into noise. The chief stood up, his robe shaking. "Silence," he thundered. "It was just a test." But no one believed him anymore. The people had seen too much pride, too much pain. That day, the truth walked freely through the village. The chief's throne no longer looked like power, It looked like shame wrapped in gold. When the truth spread through the village, people ran toward the chief's palace in anger. The drummers stopped their beats, and the air felt heavy with shame. The elders ordered the guards to release Kofi from the storehouse. His body was weak, but his eyes still carried the same quiet fire. As he stepped into the sunlight, the crowd went silent. Amma, though still frail, leaned on Efua's shoulder and cried with relief. Kofi walked to her slowly, his wrists bruised, his heart full. "Mama," he whispered, "truth has found its voice." She held him tightly and wept in his arms. Mensa knelt before them, tears rolling down his cheeks. "I am sorry," he said, trembling. "I did what my father told me." Kofi looked at him for a long time. "May the truth never be your enemy again," he said softly. The crowd murmured in awe at his mercy. The elders turned to the chief. "You have shamed the stool," one said. "You are not fit to rule." The chief bowed his head in silence. His crown was removed before the eyes of the people he once ruled. That evening, the village drums began again, not for pride, but for cleansing. Justice had returned, carried by the courage of a widow's son. Weeks passed after the chief's fall, and peace slowly returned to the village. The elders built a new stool for justice, one that would serve all people, not just the rich. Kofi helped repair the old school near the river, teaching children to read and to always speak the truth, no matter who stood before them. Amma regained her strength and often sat under the mango tree, smiling as she watched her son teach. "You have brought honor back to our name," she would say. Kofi would laugh softly. "It was your faith that carried me, Mama." Their small hut, once filled with tears, now carried the sound of laughter. Efua became like family. Together, they worked to help the poor widows of the village. People came to Kofi for advice, calling him the boy who never bowed to lies. He stayed humble, never letting pride touch his heart. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Kofi said to his mother, "I have learned that truth walks slowly, but it never gets lost. Ama similet. And courage is the lamp that lights its path." Truth is like the sun, it may hide behind clouds, but it always returns to shine. Power built on lies will crumble, but dignity built on honesty will stand forever. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is strength wrapped in peace. Never fear to stand alone when your heart knows what is right, for the world remembers the brave, not the silent. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, let it move through others. Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more real African tales.